Edo State Government, GIZ, don Collabo to reduce gender-based violence Kpatakpata as Betsy Obaseki say she no go tolerate anybody when go against. Edo State Ministry of Youth and Gender Affairs don organize one workshop to chook mouth for gender-based violence and give the people informate for the dangers of gender-based violence for the society. This workshop, when the team now beyond 16 days, 365 days of action to prevent and eliminate violence against women and girls in Edo State, na collabo between the ministry and GIZ. Edo State First Lady and Chairman for Edo State Gender-Based Violence Management Committee, Betsy Obaseki, say Edo State get zero tolerance against gender-based violence and everybody must join hand to fight this matter. She talks the government don collabo with different security agencies to tackle with gender-based violence for the state.
The issue of gender-based violence, we are celebrating 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. This issue of just bringing to fore the issue of GBV only in these 16 days towards the end of the year really makes no sense. It is something like when they say to you, to some of us, let us celebrate your birthday, for instance. I'm not a birthday person. And I tell them I'm not a birthday person. Sometimes I even wake up and I forget my birthday. It's my husband who always reminds me. I am not at all a birthday person. So they say to me, why don't you celebrate it? And it's a way of giving thanks to God and all of that. I say I give thanks to God every day for my life. So if the birthday celebration is about appreciating God for my life, it should be something that you do every day. Same with GBV. It really ought to be something we do every day. Something we look out for, something we keep fighting for on a daily basis. That's the only way that these numbers that our friend from the ministry, federal ministry has quoted will keep coming down. And so for us in Edo State, it is something our eyes are on a daily basis. You all will recall when the deputy governor himself, myself, and my deputy, his wife, attended court cases, GBV court cases. Never has it been done in this country. That shows the commitment of this government in fighting GBV, violence against women and girls. The governor has declared that in Edo State there's zero tolerance for this barbaric acts in human behavior from people who are supposed to be human beings and end up behaving like animals. So we have zero tolerance here. And incidentally, this whole presentation from the Ministry of Women Affairs talking about the fight against GBV and how the president gave a directive and that all state governments should set up GBV committees actually started in Edo in 2020. I know that in various states across the country, people have been keeping an eye on GBV issues and fighting it in the various states. But what brought about this national intervention, coming right from the presidency, was as a result of governors' wives coming together, forming a coalition, which we call Nigerian Governors' Wives Against Gender-Based Violence. This happened in June of 2020, following the death of Waila Omozoa, a lovely Uniben female student who was raped and killed in the process here in Benin City. As it happened in Edo, we got reports also. A few days after, it was happening in different states. I believe it happened, a young lady was also killed in one of the western states, then in the north, and I believe in the east. And so it became a pandemic in the midst of the pandemic. This was during Corona, so it was obvious that because people were locked in and locked down, then they had more access to victims, and it became, it was just, more unusual. And so with the governor's permission, we did a video to be aired on national TV, calling out for all authorities to wake up and address this issue and bring an end to it. And it was something that we were not going to tolerate. as mothers and as women. And this outcry on national TV caught the attention of some of my colleagues, governors' wives. And then they called me and said, oh, this is wonderful, let's do something together. Because at the time I was heading the Southern Governors' Wives Forum. And my northern sisters, 2 of them called me to say, let's do something. My counterpart in the north at the time, the Northern Governors' Wives chairperson, and another Northern Governor's wife, who is my friend, called and said, oh, we saw this on TV, this is great, let's do something together as a whole, as Governor's wives. So that gave birth to the Nigeria Governor's Wives Against Gender-Based Violence Coalition. And when we got together in 2020, December, we decided to have a conference, a GBV conference, marking the 16 days of activism, where we invited governors and major stakeholders, both international agencies and local agencies, and decided that every year we'll be having such a conference to push our agenda, to bring the issue to the fore, to get, gather momentum across the country, and get support from every quarter to push this fight at a national and at a state levels. So in that first year, one of the things we came up with as a communique was that every state must set up a GBV committee, and it must be chaired by the wives of the governors. And at the same time, the Minister for Women Affairs was also pushing, and then with us doing ours, we came together, and then she took the matter to the Federal Executive Council, where the President then issued the decree on TV, and we then pushed at our end to with the Governors Forum, and got the Governors Forum to agree that their wives would chair the GBV committees. We also pushed that every state must domesticate the Violence Against People's Prohibition Act, which had been promulgated many, many years ago, but very few states had implemented in their states. At the time, Edo had already implemented, because we did ours in 2017, I believe. And so that's how the fight started. I'm proud to say that as of 2020, when we started, we had only 13 states across Nigeria that had domesticated the VAP law in their states. But as I stand today, I just got back from Abuja, where we had a national conference on GBV, Governor's Wives, and we're glad to announce to Nigerians that as of today, from 13 in 2020, we have 34 states that have now domesticated the VAP law in their various states. So this is what happens when people come together with one mind to fight a matter. Beyond signing the bill into law in every state, what we're pushing for now is implementation. The bill's been signed to law, but the GBV committees must be set up by the governors, and they must be headed by their wives. Because if the wives didn't get involved, this wouldn't have happened. When you have the governor's wives in charge, they are closest to the governor and will harass the life out of him until he does what we want them to do. That's the reason why you're seeing success. So where we are now is that we're pushing for implementation. In Edo State, as a matter of fact, in Edo in 2020, September 2020, the governor and I at the SAC Center signed our sex offenders register. We were the first state to be connected to the database. It's known even in Abuja. The first. For a long time, we were the only ones. Okay? And we've got data. We have a sexual assault referral center. It's been in existence for years. We have just moved it from its location to a new building, big building that the governor has built, and by the end of this month, the building will be ready. And our SAC Center has medical doctors, we've got lawyers, physically sitting with desks and offices. We've got psychosocial support providers from the Ministry of Gender, psychologists. We've got NGOs, CSOs working in the space. Also, they're providing counseling to victims, Okay? We also have a police physically there. We have civil defense also present. They help the lawyers with the cases when they come. Okay? We have, what else do we have there? We've got a pharmacist, we've got a pharmacy, we've got nurses. It's well established. And we've got data. Everyone who comes in there, every case we hear of. We also have our GBV committee is very active. We have meetings every quarter, every 3 months. We carry out sensitization across the states. We've met with religious leaders. We've met with traditional leaders. We continue to engage them, so that the change goes down to the bottom, to the local governments, where, by the way, we find that these acts are perpetrated more. And so it's important for people to know what's happening down in the villages. I keep telling them when I go around to talk, tell them that the government has enacted this law and these are the penalties. So I want you to know, because if you do this and that, these are the penalties. 3 years imprisonment for slapping your wife, life imprisonment for raping somebody, so that they should know and that it's no longer business as usual. Whenever I have meetings with my committee members, I tell them convictions, convictions, convictions. That's what we want to see. Same as what our president is insisting from the ministry and same as what the federal ministry is pushing. And that's the reason why the deputy governor and I and his wife had to go to the court to sit there and hear what they are doing to make sure that these lawyers do their work. And to send the message that this is not a joke anymore, that no matter who the person is, no matter how high up in society the human being is, if they commit this crime against women and children, and the children include male and female. We've had cases that we handled in our GBV committee where a boy was raped by his father in this city. So we send out the message, no longer business as usual. Anybody caught, no matter who you are, you will face the law fully. Nobody will save you.
Edo State Deputy Governor, Right Honorable Comrade Philip Shaibu, Konya and say make traditional rulers join government to inform their people about this matter. A constituent talk say this gender-based violence matter, men they involved and not be only women and girls.
As you all know, we in Edo State, we don't lament. That is one thing the governor has institutionalized in Edo State. We look for solutions because we have come to the terms that when government laments, the people loses hope. Because if government start lamenting, then the ordinary man on the street will commit suicide because the duty of governance is to provide solutions, not to lament. And that is why we took upon ourselves that we must institutionalize things like this to make them permanent and legal so that the judiciary also, arms will not be tied against taking certain decisions. We are also aware that for these things to work out, sitting at the table just now, I got some comment. Associations have to also play their role. The medical NMA, Nigerian Medical Association, every ministry, we need to have discussion with them. There are issues they also need to help deal with because we learned, I just heard, I don't want to quote the source because that some of them will not come during prosecution. They even charge money. And so, First Lady, we will get those information to your office also so that you help to also look at that angle so that they also know that if they try to frustrate these cases, they too will be charged alongside those that have taken that decision. That's what the law is saying. And so all of us have a duty to make gender-based violence actually free in our society. Just think about it. You as a man or you as a woman being violated, how do you feel? How will you feel? So if you are going to feel good, then you continue. But you are going to feel bad, which I know you're definitely going to feel bad. Why doing it to other persons? It's more against the women. And that is why each time we talk about gender-based violence, the voices of the women are louder in the support than the men. The men also are victims in some cases, but very, very few. Because when you look at it really, you are the head of the house. Doesn't make you the superman of the house. Doesn't make you use your fists at all times. And doesn't make you feel that you should be authority in every ramification. Because for some of us for all of us, when we check the institution called marriage, marriage has already made you equal. So if marriage has made you equal, why now decide to exercise certain powers more than the other person when marriage has made you equal? So for us, beyond the moral issue, we need to also justify why we must do things that are good or why we should not do things that are bad. For the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs, Edo State is driven by data. We don't start any activity without gathering data in those activities. Because for all, we must see from the beginning, we must see the end of our program. If we cannot see the end of our program, we don't even start it. Because we are not government of abandoned projects. And we are government that want to be, that when we start a program, it must be consistent with a vision to actualize that purpose. So when you come to data, Edo State is number one when it comes to data gathering. The office of the First Lady has been not just leading, has also been very sensitive to this issue, even before they met as First Lady with the President, First Lady of Nigeria, to now they decided to have wives of governor, heads, and all. We were already doing that. What we are doing is what they adopted at the national. So that is why our First Lady, it was easy for her to just blend, because what they are telling her to do in Abuja is what she was already doing here at home. So for the women and men in Edo, and our children especially, there is law, like she has said. There is law. This law covers everything, everything. The law covers it. And I'm happy our traditional rulers are here. You have a great role to also play with your subject. Maybe during the public awareness campaign, we need to also come to your communities to help us pass this message to your subject. Because in the rural area, when we check the data, in the rural area, there are a lot of these things being committed. But because of tradition and because of our culture, they don't report. The women have a way of feeling, my family, if they hear this, and the family of, and that is why when that law is being couched, all these things were put in place. So cultural influence will also not make you not to report. And if cultural influence make you not to report, whoever is in charge is also guilty. Is also guilty. So that is why our traditional rulers, we are coming to you. We will give you the document. It's not to take your powers as traditional rulers or take your power as a man. No, but when we say gender, it's both men and women. We are not saying women violence. We say gender-based violence, which includes you.
Commissioner for Youth and Gender Affairs, Andrea Mata, coined the progress when Edo State they make for this fight against gender-based violence. He say Edo they develop sexual harassment policy where it could punish offenders.
2020, the Edo State Sexual Offenders Register was launched through the support of Our Excellency, and as we speak, we have secured so far 39 convictions. 39 convictions. With over 254 reported cases. And the good news too is that Ekiti, that is the first, the head of the SAC Center, what we say SAC is the Sexual Assault Referral Center. Before I close this speech, I will also tell you the good news of what we have at the level of SAC, the kind of interventions the Edo State government has made under the leadership of our dear governor. So that the SAC Center in Ekiti is headed by an Edo person. The person in charge of the unit responsible for GBV cases in the Ministry of Justice is an Edo person in Ekiti. So what we said in the recent 8th conference on SAC networking is that the successes that even Ekiti, which appears to be the first in the national scale, and Edo is closely following Ekiti, is that the two people who have recorded these successes are Edo people. And that tells you that the Edo spirit cuts across. So today's event is not for long speeches. It's just to assure stakeholders that the Edo State government is very committed in dealing with this problem of gender-based violence. In our 2023 budget, we have allocations specifically for the activities of the Edo State Gender-Based Management Committee under the leadership of Her Excellency. And also, we are also developing what we call the Edo State Sexual Harassment Policy. The problem of GBV begins with an act of harassment that we take for granted. I tell you a very short story. As a lecturer in the University of Calabar, there was a particular incident. A student of my faculty was raped by who? By no less a person than the dean of that faculty. As we speak, that man is yet to be brought to justice. Some of us who spoke up were victimized. I mean, in all our institutions, this problem is there, but nobody is speaking up. So that the present movement is to end this culture of silence. And I'm grateful that Her Excellency has been very supportive. And the beautiful part about it is, we talk of he for she. Whoever thought that a man will head the Ministry of Youth and Gender Issues, fighting a scourge that majority of the perpetrators are men, and we have always had this culture of silence flowing from us men. So we want to assure Her Excellency that the Ministry of Youth and Gender Issues, which has always been at the forefront, will continue to support the GBV committee, because the GBV committee, the secretariat is domiciled in our ministry, and we assure you that 2023 will be a better year. The 254 cases we have, our plan is to take it to 500 cases that we're investigating and we're prosecuting. The 39 convictions that we've had, our plan is to take it to as far as 70 convictions, so that Edo will become a safe place for our daughters, our mothers, and even males are also victims of GBV, and our men.
Omwaluke Ajakaye, TMC TV News. Make una remember, say your PVC na be your power. Not say I'm giving a politician on election day.